How's it going, everyone? Austin Honecker here. I just wanted to come on here for a while and give him a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite from 4 nights ago, which was November 9th, 2022. I gotta say, it was awesome from start to finish. For the matches, match 1, it was FTR, which are Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, and The Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, versus the Guns, which are Colton and Austin Gunn, and Swerve in Our Glory, which are Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. That was a great match, but the ending to it, FTR and The Acclaimed went over cause Anthony Bowens pinned Colton Gunn with the mic drop from Max Caster. Now, before the match, as the Guns, Swerve in Our Glory, FTR, and The Acclaimed came out, Max Caster, for their entrance, Max Caster done a rap on Swerve in Our Glory and the Guns, and Anthony Bowens said his signature line, "Boston, the Acclaimed have arrived," and everything. And then, as Anthony Bowens said his signature line, Billy Gunn came out and attacked Swerve Strickland and beat the shit out of him, and BJ Whitmer came out to calm Billy Gunn down, and Billy Gunn and BJ Whitmer went backstage before the match started and everything. That was cool. That was before the match, by the way. Match 2, it was Ethan Page versus Eddie Kingston in an AEW title tournament qualifying match. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Ethan Page went over and advanced in the AEW title tournament with a diving Ego's Edge. Match 3, it was Wardlow versus Ari Daivari for the AEW TNT title. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Wardlow went over and retained the AEW TNT title with the Powerbomb Symphony. Now, before the match, the Trust Busters, which are Ari Daivari and Jeeves K, were out in the ring, and Ari Daivari cut a promo talking about how he'll buy the AEW TNT title off Wardlow and exchange it for Jeeves K to be Wardlow's butler, because Wardlow would be better to have a butler than him be a butler to MJF. Jeeves K could be a butler to Wardlow and everything, and then Wardlow, and then Ward Joe, which are Samoa Joe and Wardlow, came out, and as Ward Joe came out, as Wardlow got into the ring, Wardlow teased like he was trading off the AEW TNT title to Ari Daivari, but Wardlow tricked Ari Daivari, and Wardlow kicked Jeeves K in the stomach and threw him out of the ring, and then, before the match started and everything. That was cool. That was before the match, by the way. And after the match, Wardlow rolled Ari Daivari out of the ring, and Samoa Joe came into the ring, and Wardlow got on the microphone and called Powerhouse Hobbs out. So Powerhouse Hobbs came out, and Wardlow was talking about how he now has an actual opponent for the AEW TNT title, and talked about how he was going to kick Powerhouse Hobbs' ass, and how Powerhouse Hobbs wasn't going to take the AEW TNT title from him and everything. And Wardlow talked about how he was going to take all the titles in the company and everything. And as Wardlow said that, Samoa Joe attacked Wardlow from behind with the Ring of Honor television title, and then Samoa Joe choked Wardlow out with a sleeper hold, and as Samoa Joe was choking Wardlow out, Powerhouse Hobbs was looking on and everything, and as Samoa Joe let go of the sleeper hold. A stare down between Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs. Well, as Samoa Joe let go of Wardlow, let go of the sleeper hold on Wardlow. A stare down between Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs ensued. Powerhouse Hobbs let Wardlow know that they were not in cahoots and everything. And Powerhouse Hobbs talked about how he would kick Samoa Joe's ass and everything too. And Powerhouse Hobbs ended up going backstage, and Samoa Joe left the ring and went backstage as well while Wardlow was laying out and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way. Match 4, it was Jay Lethal versus Trent Beretta. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Jay Lethal went over with the lethal injection. Now, before the match, as Trent Beretta was coming out to the ring, Jay Lethal came out and attacked Trent Beretta from behind with a chop block to the leg, and then Jay Lethal started beating the shit out of Trent Beretta before the match started and everything. That was cool. That was before the match, by the way. And after the match, Tony Schiavone attempted to interview Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh, but Sanjay Dutt took the microphone. Well, Tony Schiavone was attempting to ask Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh a question, but Sanjay Dutt took the microphone from Tony Schiavone, and Sanjay Dutt was telling Tony Schiavone to shut up and to go sit down because he runs the place and everything. And as Tony Schiavone went to sit down, Sanjay Dutt was talking shit towards everyone, and then Sanjay Dutt introduced Jeff Jarrett. So Jeff Jarrett came out, and Jeff Jarrett took the microphone, and Jeff Jarrett was talking about how he was calling out Sting and Darby Allin, but they were nowhere to be found. And Jeff Jarrett was talking about how the reason the reason why he came to AEW is because if a friend calls, a friend answers. And Jeff Jarrett was talking about how he gave Jay Lethal his first contract, how he signed Jay Lethal to his first contract, and talked about how he beat the likes of the Nature Boy Ric Flair and Sting, and talked about how he was a Grand Slam champion and everything. And Jeff Jarrett was talking about how Sanjay Dutt has the IQ of 81 and everything. And then Jeff Jarrett was talking about how Satnam Singh was a real 7'5" giant, not some man that wears skinny jeans and is produced by a monkey circus and everything. And then Jeff Jarrett was talking more shit, and the producer was one of the producers was trying to wind Jeff Jarrett up, but Jeff Jarrett got pissed off, and then Jeff Jarrett issued a challenge for him and Jay Lethal to face Sting and Darby Allin at Full Gear, and then that director kept signaling Jeff Jarrett to hurry up, but Jeff Jarrett chased that director off, and Sanjay Dutt was holding Jeff Jarrett back, trying to calm him down, and while Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh were looking on and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way. Match 5, it was Jamie Hayter versus Sky Blue. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Jamie Hayter went over with the ripcord lariat. Well, after the match, Jamie Hayter attacked Sky Blue by stomping on her repetitively, and as that was going on, Tony Storm came into the ring to try to attack Jamie Hayter, but Jamie Hayter retreated while Tony Storm was looking on and tending to Sky Blue and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way. And that was match 5, by the way. And match 6, which was the main event, it was Bryan Danielson versus Sammy Guevara in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Well, this is how the match went. Bryan Danielson won the first fall by disqualification because Sammy Guevara threw a chair at Bryan Danielson's head, and the referee called for the bell. The second fall, Sammy Guevara won with the GTH. And then the third fall, Bryan Danielson won with the LeBell Lock. So the ending to the match, Bryan Danielson, well, it was a great match, but the ending to the match, Bryan Danielson went over with the LeBell Lock. Now, yeah, that was match 6 and the main event, by the way. Now, besides the matches, MJF cut a promo talking about how his match with Jon Moxley at Full Gear for the AEW title was going to be the biggest match of his career, and talked about how the all-time greats like the late great Bruno Sammartino, the late great American Dream Dusty Rhodes, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and John Cena were pioneers of the wrestling business and everything. And MJF was talking about how Jon Moxley, how he doesn't like Jon Moxley, but he respects him, and talked about how Jon Moxley has worked his ass off for the wrestling business and everything, and to where he is today and everything. And MJF talked about how the firm were cowards for attacking him like they did, and talked about how, and MJF talked about how William Regal just woke up the devil and everything, and talked about how he didn't need the diamond ring to beat Jon Moxley and win the AEW title and everything. And MJF was talking about how he's going to beat Jon Moxley and win the AEW title at Full Gear and everything. That was cool. Stokely Hathaway cut a promo talking about how MJF was his best friend and how he thought that they were on the same side and everything, but it turns out that they weren't. And Stokely Hathaway talked about how MJF has been dick riding Jon Moxley and everything, and Stokely Hathaway was talking about how he didn't need MJF, that he was going to do everything himself and everything. That was cool. Renee Paquette interviewed Roosh, Jose the Assistant, and the Dark Order, which are Evil Uno, John Silver, Alex Reynolds, and 10. Well, Renee Paquette brought up about how it was going to be Roosh versus Bandito in an AEW title eliminator match on AEW Rampage Friday night and everything. And then Renee Paquette brought up why Jose the Assistant and Roosh requested the time to talk to the Dark Order and everything. Well, Jose the Assistant was talking about how Roosh was going to win the AEW title tournament and was going to become the AEW champion, and talked about how if and when Roosh becomes the AEW champion, that 10 was going to get the first shot at the AEW title and everything. And then Roosh got in 10's face, and Roosh was saying, Roosh does not give second opportunities. So 10, take it, Pero. And John Silver said to Roosh, well, John Silver told Roosh, back off, Roosh bag. And so Roosh got pissed and was getting ready to attack John Silver, but was getting ready to attack the Dark Order, but Jose the Assistant held Roosh back, and Evil Uno, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds held 10 back and everything. That was cool. Renee Paquette interviewed Jade Cargill and the Baddies, which are Kiera Hogan and Layla Gray. Well, Renee Paquette was talking about how Nyla Rose... Renee Paquette was asking Jade Cargill how she was feeling about Nyla Rose still in her TBS women's title, and talking about how Nyla Rose was targeting her and everything. And then Jade Cargill was talking about how Nyla Rose has been parading around like she's the TBS women's champion when she's not, and talking about how Nyla Rose is supposed to be on AEW Rampage Friday night and is issuing an open challenge to anyone for the TBS women's title and everything. And Jade Cargill talked about how how she was going to be facing off against Nyla Rose at Full Gear for the TBS Women's title, and how she was going to kick Nyla Rose's ass at Full Gear. But then Jade Cargill was saying, but if Nyla Rose is at AEW Rampage Friday night in Boston, I'll beat her ass then, and everything. And so Jade Cargill and the baddies, which are Kiera Hogan and Layla Gray, left while Renee Paquette was looking on and everything. That was cool. Tony Schiavone interviewed Saraya and Britt Baker. Well, Tony Schiavone was telling Saraya he knows she has something to get off her chest, so go ahead and get it off her chest and everything. So Saraya was talking about how AEW was her house and how everyone is wanting to know if she's cleared or what and everything. And Saraya informed the fans that she's cleared to wrestle and everything, and was talking more shit and was talking shit towards Britt Baker and everything. And then Britt Baker was talking about how Saraya left her house in WWE and talked about how she came into the company that Britt Baker herself built from her back up, which is AEW and everything. And Britt Baker talked about how how Saraya was jealous of her and everything, and Britt Baker continued to talk more shit towards Saraya, but then Saraya talked about how Britt Baker has had everything handed to her by Tony Khan and has went through all of QT Marshall's trainees and everything, and talked about how Britt Baker doesn't know what it's like to work for what you get in the wrestling business and everything. And Saraya talked about how she's been in the business for 17 years and talked about how she's had many injuries but continued to wrestle, and talked about how she's traveled all over the United States and all over the United Kingdom and all over Europe and everything, and talked about how promoters have denied her and everything, and talked about how she was hit by a car but wrestled the same day, and done all this because she loves the business and everything. And Saraya continued to talk more shit towards Britt Baker, and then Saraya made it clear to Britt Baker that at Full Gear it was going to be Saraya herself versus Britt Baker at Full Gear and everything. And Saraya ended up calling Britt Baker a bitch and everything. And then as Saraya was finished talking, Britt Baker tried to attack Saraya, but Saraya moved out of the way, and Saraya executed a super kick to Britt Baker, and then Saraya executed the lifting DDT to Britt Baker and laid her out and everything. And Saraya stood tall and everything, and then Saraya left the ring and went backstage while Britt Baker was laid out looking on and everything. That was cool. Lexi Nair interviewed Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh, along with The Factory, which are QT Marshall, Aaron Solo, Nick Camarado, Cole Carter, and Lee Johnson. Well, Sanjay Dutt brought up about how Cole Carter done an awesome job at helping Jay Lethal beat Darby Allin, with Cole Carter dressed up as Sting and everything. And so Sanjay Dutt paid Cole Carter a lot of money, and QT Marshall took the envelope full of money and gave Cole Carter $100, and QT Marshall said, "Here, kid, you deserve this." And QT Marshall told Sanjay Dutt, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh, "Next time we do business, it's going to be half off." And Sanjay Dutt said, "My man." And then as the factory, Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh were talking, the best friends, which are Trent Beretta, Chuck Taylor, Orange Cassidy, and Dan Housen, appeared, and Dan Housen was saying to Lee Johnson, "You ruined Danhausen's Halloween. And now you're hanging out with these goons, the guy with the hat. And Danhausen was pissed off and everything, and then Orange Cassidy was saying, Lee, don't hit my friend. Then QT Marshall was saying, Orange, hold up. Since you like putting your AEW All-Atlantic title on the line, how about you put your AEW All-Atlantic title on the line on AEW Rampage Friday night against Lee Johnson? Orange Cassidy said, you're on. And so Orange Cassidy and Danhausen, along with The Factory, which are QT Marshall, Aaron Solo, Nick Camarado, Cole Carter, and Lee Johnson left, and Trent Beretta said to Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh, what's up, scumbags? Sanjay Dutt said, you talking to us? Trent Beretta, the best friends, which are Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor, came up to Sanjay Dutt, Sanjay Dutt, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh, and Trent Beretta said, did I stutter? I said, what's up, scumbags? Jay Lethal said to Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh, I think he's calling us scumbags. Then Trent Beretta said, what are you going to do about it, Lethal? Trent Beretta said, yeah, that's exactly what I said. And then Jay Lethal said, what are you going to do about it, Trent? Trent Beretta said, I'll fight you and everything. That was cool. Renee Paquette interviewed Jungle Boy. Well, Renee Paquette brought up about Jungle Boy costing Luchasaurus the AEW All-Atlantic title last week on AEW Dynamite and everything, and Renee Paquette asked what Jungle Boy's plans were going further. Well, Jungle Boy was talking about how he laid out Luchasaurus in a pile of wood and everything, and talked about how Christian Cage was saying that him and Luchasaurus were on to better things and that they were done with Jungle Boy and everything. And Jungle Boy was saying, Christian Cage, you don't get to decide what goes on between Luchasaurus and myself, because this war is far from over. So Friday night, I'm calling both of you out, and we will meet on AEW Rampage. And I have a proposition for both of you and everything. That was cool. The Blackpool Combat Club, which are William Regal and John Moxley, came out to the ring, and John Moxley cut a promo talking about how him and William Regal met, and how that he was like 25, 26 years old, and how he thought he knew it all, and how he picked a fight with William Regal, and talked about how William Regal beat the shit out of him and everything, and talked about that was when he didn't have crippling arthritis and how he was in better shape than what he is and everything. And John Moxley talked about after he got his ass whooped by William Regal, he learned his lesson. And then issued another fight to William Regal, and that time he beat William Regal's ass and everything. And John Moxley was asking William Regal, William Regal, who does this remind you of? William Regal said, MJF. John Moxley said, yes, it reminds both of us of MJF. And then John Moxley was talking about how MJF has had the easy way out and has never had a target on his back, and how he's never carried AEW on his back and everything. And John Moxley was talking about how MJF thinks he's the devil, and said something to William Regal about it, and William Regal laughed about it, and John Moxley was saying, MJF, I've met the devil, and you're not it. And then John Moxley was talking about how MJF got his ass whooped by John Moxley himself and didn't get the AEW title over a year ago at All Out 2020, and talked about how this time wasn't going to be any different at Full Gear 2022 and everything. And Jon Moxley talked about how he was going to kick MJF's ass and retain the AEW title and everything. That was cool. AEW aired a video package of the Elite, which are Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, Kenny Omega, and Don Callis being erased from AEW history and everything. That was cool. AEW aired a video package of the build-up of the match between Bryan Danielson versus Sammy Guevara in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the main event of AEW Dynamite. That was cool. AEW aired a video package of the build-up of the match between Brian Cage versus Dante Martin in the AEW title eliminator match on AEW Rampage Friday night. That was cool. And Alex Marvez attempted to interview Ricky Starks, but Lance Archer attacked Ricky Starks and beat the shit out of him, and Lance Archer told Alex Marvez, "Alex, get your ass over here." Alex Marvez went over to Lance Archer. Well, Lance Archer was holding Ricky Starks down, and Lance Archer said, "You're not getting pretty boy Ricky Starks. You got me, because Ricky Starks is not going in this tournament. I am, because everybody dies." And then Lance Archer slammed Ricky Starks' head into the garage door after beating the shit out of him and everything, and Lance Archer looked on. Well, Lance Archer left, and Alex Marvez signaled for help for Ricky Starks, and so the trainers came to help Ricky Starks and everything. That was cool. Now, besides all that, Tony Schiavone, Taz, and Excalibur done commentary throughout the whole show. They done awesome as usual. And William Regal done commentary. But besides all that, Tony Schiavone, Taz, and Excalibur done commentary throughout the whole show. They done awesome as usual. And William Regal done guest commentary along with Tony Schiavone, Taz, and Excalibur during the match between Bryan Danielson versus Sammy Guevara in a 2 out of 3 falls match. William Regal done great on guest commentary. The referees for the event were Rick Knox, Paul Turner, Bryce Remsburg, Stephon Smith, and Aubrey Edwards. Okay. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between FTR and The Acclaimed versus The Guns and Swerve in Our Glory. Paul Turner refereed the match between Ethan Page versus Eddie Kingston in the AEW title eliminator match. Stephon Smith refereed the match between Wardlow versus Ari Daivari for the AEW TNT title. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Jay Lethal versus Trent Beretta. Rick Knox refereed the match between Jamie Hayter versus Sky Blue. And Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Bryan Danielson versus Sammy Guevara in the 2 out of 3 falls match. All the referees done awesome as usual. And the match card that's been announced for All Elite Wrestling's pay-per-view event, Full Gear, that's been announced so far, it's going to be Jon Moxley versus MJF for the AEW title. The Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, versus Swerve in Our Glory, which are Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland for the AEW tag team titles. Tony Storm versus Jamie Hayter for the AEW interim women's title. Jade Cargill versus Nyla Rose for the TBS Women's title. Chris Jericho versus Bryan Danielson versus Claudio Castagnoli versus Sammy Guevara in a four-way match for the Ring of Honor World title. Sting and Darby Allin versus Jeff Jarrett and Sting and Darby Allin versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Saraya versus Britt Baker. And the finalists and the finalists in the AEW title eliminator match to determine the number one contender for the AEW title. So the match card for All Elite Wrestling's pay-per-view event Full Gear so far that's been announced looks like it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it, and I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a while and give them a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite from 4 nights ago, which was November 9th, 2022. Like I said, it was awesome from start to finish, and with that being said, my name is Austin Honecker, and I will catch your ass down the road. Peace out.